the South will do 8 years, the North will do 8 years, is already off the table. Because that was the general refrain that the South will be allowed to finish their term. So does the North want to vie for presidency in 2027 and break the rhythm? Is there anything we ought to know as regards that, sir?
Well, Rufai, I think this is a very familiar conversation in the last 25 years. But I think so much has changed that that kind of conversation is actually outdated. Yes, politics is about popular participation. Yes, inclusion is very important. Yes, people need to make sense or have good reasons to be able to participate. But I think what has happened in the last 25 years is the fact that we have tried these kind of models of North and South and this and that, and the country is only going down the drain. So I think it is time to start a new conversation, to start rethinking how can we have democracy with development. We're having democracy with all these things of North and South and East and West and whatever you have, and the country is not developing. If anything, it's actually de-developing. It is going down the drain. All the indices of development are, taking a nosedive. So I would rather say, while yes, it's important that we recognize and every part of this country and become inclusive, but I think we would be losing out on the challenges that are facing us if we continue with all the problems we have to start talking about North and South. I would rather be part of a new conversation that's, start thinking about what team do we require that can fix this country that is about to break down, that is about to be run aground by reckless and irresponsible politicians who have held power in the last 25 years. And they are not ashamed of the fact that they have not performed well. And they are still talking about, ambitions. Everybody has an ambition to be this, ambition to be that. People are talking about their turn and their turn. And what have you done with those turns? You are destroying this country. We can't continue with these kind of conversations. Yes, like I said, we have to recognize everybody, we have to include everybody, we have to consult, but this should not deteriorate to a level where we start looking at turn-by-turn kind of presidency, or we start looking at this, or become fixated with this formula of North and South, and some people say, oh, this tribe has not had its chance, so they have to have their chance. Okay, those tribes who have had their chance, what have they done? So is it a tribal matter in the 21st century?
Right.
Please.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Baguji. But my immediate question to you is, why now? I don't think you were this fervent, or the ACF was this fervent when it was said to be the turn of the North. And I believe this concept of turn by turn was done in such a way as to ensure that everyone in Nigeria is well represented. Why is it that it's now that it's the turn, let me use the word, of the South, that the Northerners realized that, or at least the ARA Consultative Forum realized that it shouldn't be turn by turn, it should be by who ought to be there. And then I want to ask you if you agree with what the National Publicity Secretary of the ACF said. He said that in 2015, and I'm quoting directly, we were sold a dummy of anti-corruption. We were sold a dummy of many things, and people have realized that it wasn't true. Do you agree with this statement that in 2015 you were sold what could be said in his words as the dummy of anti-corruption?
Yeah, it's a little better than last time.
Okay, I'll try to project my voice so you can hear me a bit clearer. I'd asked you in summary, just asked you questions around why now? Why didn't you express this position when the North benefited from the turn-by-turn arrangement? And I believe that turn-by-turn arrangement came about as a result of making it fair and equitable so that at least Nigeria is represented at that national level. Why now? Why is it now a bad idea?
Okay. For me, this is not the first time I started talking about it. I talked about it from 2015. 2019 through to 2023, before then, even from 2015, I have consistently said Buhari's presidency was a disaster. And there are so many other ways that, things that he did by, putting too many northerners in the security sector for no benefit at all from the north. And I thought Buhari's experience is itself sufficient evidence that this idea of putting somebody from one part of the country to become president doesn't really work. It doesn't make sense. Because what do you want him to do? To favor his own part of the country and to abandon others? This is very naive, to say the least. So the point I'm making is that you can achieve inclusion and not at the expense of development. One way to do it, for example, there is no part of the country that has any monopoly of competence. There are competent Nigerians among the Southwest, among the Southeast, among the South-South, Northeast, Northwest, North Central. Why don't you pick those competent Nigerians from the different parts of the country to fix and run your country? Why do you go for people who are barely educated, people who are crooks, people who clearly have no idea of where to take this country, who cannot engage the world, who don't even understand? All they know is primitive consumption and primitive accumulation and very perverse, tastes and consumptions, and just simply running the country down. So if this is why I said inclusion is a very, very critical aspect of governance. And you can achieve that and still achieve development by bringing more competent people. There are technocrats who can fix the energy sector, who can fix, the transportation sector, who can improve all the infrastructure. The few that have come into government have been elbowed out. Some of them have been chased out of government because corruption will not accept the kind of thing that they want to do. And I feel very sad. I mean, we, and quite a number of Nigerians, and by the way, across the board, and not just the North, the East, the West, we stood up to the military during the time of Abacha. We fought for democracy. But this is not the kind of democracy we want to see. We want a democracy that takes cognizance, of competence and recognizes knowledge in the 21st century as the greatest capital and try to mobilize. And Nigeria has a lot of these talents, has a lot of competent people. Why don't we bring them into governance? Why don't they lead the process? Why do we need some politicians who don't understand the world in the 21st century, who have no record of doing anything, competent anywhere, and all their life is life of sleaze and corruption, and because they have accumulated money through those corrupt practices, then they buy everybody off, and now we have a National Assembly that is just, literally for sale. Only money. I mean, they cannot stand up to the president on anything. And so this is the point. I think we have to change the conversation because we need a new narrative. And we have to be constantly aware, and I keep repeating this fact, that 2030, just another 5 years from now, we're going to be 300 million. Already today, we have more than 33 million people on the verge of starvation. These are United Nations bodies that are quoting these figures. We have a deficit in grains alone for last year, more than 30 million metric tons. We have 20 million children out of school, the highest around the world. We have all these terrible statistics, which we're not addressing. These politicians are not discussing these matters. They're discussing of who will, my ambition, my turn, who will be the next president. We have to do a coalition to chase President Tinubu out, just like we did with President Jonathan. Okay, when you chase him out, what are you going to do? What are you going to offer? What is the new thinking?
What is the new thinking? I'm glad you've said that. I'm glad you've said that, because that frames my next question to you, which is that we already know the, shall I say, traditionally what happens in elections in Nigeria, which is that the numbers come from the north. Now, if we're saying that it's time to do away with the system of zoning, then ultimately everything will be tipped to the favor of the north. We know that the system is a zero-sum game. So how do you balance it out? When you're speaking of inclusivity and representation and all of these things, how do you balance out the fact that the population that you're saying will be 300 million in 2030 according to your statistics?
The Constitution is already doing that. The Constitution is already doing that.
The hatred for Tinubu in the northern part of Nigeria is increasing by the day. I repeat, the hatred for Tinubu in the northern part of Nigeria is increasing by the day. Listen to BBC Hausa. You see how people are talking down on the APC and Tinubu. Listen to BBC Hausa. If you understand Hausa, try and listen to BBC Hausa. Their daily reports. Now, Buhari has disappointed a lot of politicians in the north. Elites in northern Nigeria have decided to disown Buhari over a comment he made recently on the APC and Tinubu. Elites.
Hello, my people. Now, welcome back. So, now this issue of Northerners people and Buhari, now I just say, okay, make I just come tell us more. Come on, I know as they be. Northerners people now, they don't come outside now, they talk. So, okay, they are turn by turn arrangement. They be say, okay, they don't make before. Buhari is the person who be saying is scatter, and so because of that, they no go ever forgive Buhari. They say even this thing will be say, okay, na Tinubu, na in day, na them say, now another northern person is supposed to based on say get their own turn by turn arrangement where we say they don't make. But waiting me I get to talk about this matter, be say when I say this country where we say with this, so this country does not belong to anybody. This country does not belong to only one side of this country. We know say normally this regime, this Tinubu administration doesn't follow, it does not favor anybody. Normally everybody know, it no favor anybody at all. But northern people, they not even supposed to come out, they talk say okay, make now only them they rule. Now understand based on say okay, this country no be only them get am. Now wetin me I get to talk about wetin them they talk oh. Although normally we know say okay, wetin them they try to be say okay, they won't carry Nigeria go their own side. Maybe say okay now only them they rule. Normally no be say okay me I want support Tinubu, say okay Tinubu government it dey well. Normally everybody knows say okay Tinubu government is bad, and everybody knows say everybody are feeling heat because of the way things are inflating now in this country. So me I know now neutral me I be. I know they support anybody, but waiting northern people want talk. Me I disagree with them based on say we need a better person representing the favor this country. No be that one we say them that they talk say okay them now only them now they want rule. Although if you get anything we say you don't talk about this matter, abeg make you drop am for inside comment section, and also make you calm down, watch this video to the end, make you hear wetin people talk about this matter, because plenty people talk about this matter well well. Abeg na today be the first time we say they come across our channel, abeg make you like our video, make you share and make you subscribe. Thank you.
Statement made by one of the closest supporters. In northern Nigeria, there are people that have cult-like followership. In northern Nigeria, we have Kwankwaso, we have Buhari. Buhari had 10 million followers in north. Like I said, Buhari has the capacity to dislodge Tinubu in northern Nigeria. So these guys are disappointed. El-Rufai is one of the henchmen of Buhari when it comes to CPC. The party and that cult leadership, that cult followership. El-Rufai is one of the head boys. So El-Rufai thought that leaving the APC, Buhari will also support that coalition. But Buhari came and disappointed a lot of politicians, a lot of cabals in northern Nigeria, saying that he is APC for life. Let's look at this reaction by this man, Isup JT. He says, we supported Buhari through 3 electoral cycles of 12 years. And defended Buhari's government for 8 years. Our debts to Buhari are paid in full. Patriots owe Buhari nothing, and Buhari owes us nothing. We love Buhari, but our goals have diverged. Going forward, Buhari speaks for himself. Nigerian voters speak for themselves. Is Buhari losing his supporter base? Is Buhari losing his cult followership? That is a very big question. Because let's look at the whole of Nigeria. At least we have people that have supporters that are supporting them as if they are cult members. We have a Buhari in the north. We have a P2B, and we have Tinubu. That of Tinubu, I'm not that sure about that of Tinubu, because those guys supporting Tinubu, most of them are supporting Tinubu because of gain. Most of them, not all of them, because of financial gain. But you see that Buhari cult followership. They don't care. They can die for anything. They can kill and be killed. Remember when Buhari threatened the Jonathan government? He knew he had a cult followership. So the question is, with this statement from Buhari, I'm going to read that statement now. I'm going to read that statement. With this statement from Buhari, does it mean that his cult followership are leaving him behind, going with Erufai? There's another northerner that has a cult followership.
View of where we are now. Are we moving in the direction that will lead us to that great country that all of us practically agree is the destiny of Nigeria?
Well, I think that is debatable. Generally, I think every administration that comes tries to prioritize certain agendas that it believes would carry it to the promised land. But I think what we have failed to do as a country in general, not only governments or parties,
right,
is we have been unable rather to communicate effectively to younger generations or generations upcoming, or to the general public in its entirety, what that destination would look like. We have failed to create an image of what the Nigeria of our dreams would be like. So we keep changing what that image should be. Yeah, so that image, the vision has not been clearly communicated to the people. So there's nothing people are looking up to other than their personal, achievements or successes or freedom, and that could be whatever.
Very important point.
Yeah. So that has not been clearly communicated by the country in general, by anyone else, and I think there has been fits and starts. You're looking back at history, by different governments, starting from the First Republic through military juntas of different kinds, Vision 2010, there were all these kind of things. But yet, it was just a vision of different aspects of where the country should be, but there is no image of what a Nigerian dream should be, or what a person should aspire to be. Or, you meet young people and they will tell you, what do I study today in Nigeria? In the universities or wherever, or polytechnics, to be what I want to be? What is it that you are looking forward to be? What is it that would give you this job satisfaction or feeling of achievement, at a certain age? And at what age would you be able to achieve that? So I think as a country, we have not been able to clearly communicate that. So it's difficult for different administrations to clearly say, this is where we are heading to. Every administration comes, brings out certain agendas and say, this is where we are going, this is where we want to go, to be able to free this country from corruption, because those are the major issues, to free this country from corruption, from poverty, from lack of education, from most of the social vices that we see, or lack of the issue of insecurity, and stuff like that. But those are major issues that come in once in a while, and they become an issue at a particular point in time, and sometimes they become perennial, which means they keep going on for quite some time. And then every government says that, okay, it's momentous, we want to deal with this particular issue at this point in time. But the larger picture and the image of where we are going in the next 10 years, in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years, or the future generation, what they should be aspired to be, or even communicate that Nigeria in 20 years would be so economy. So young people are advised to study this.
So let's take it from there. So what do you think that vision should be?
Well, I'm not going to sit down here and presume that I have articulated the vision. I'm working on it. It's something that I'm working on.
Parts of it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. But I think it should be a vision where
any government in power, or not government, let me not, because the country is bigger than just its government, right? You have different components, yes.
Yeah. Governments come and go.
Yes, so the component parts, the think tanks, the NES, a lot of people, between social, economy, political, traditional, whatever, have to have some sort of a consensus of where we are going as a people. What do we want to achieve? What is the, what is that pursuit of happiness? Let me use the American slogan. What is that pursuit of happiness of an individual, of a family unit, or of a community, a society, a state, a region, a zone, a country? What is that pursuit of happiness? What is that happiness that we are looking for? Is it to be able to secure a job if you go to school? Is it to have a minimum level of literacy for every child? What is it that you want to achieve when you get that literacy, or when you are able to get out of that poverty? So I think we have to be able to articulate that very well. I cannot tell you that I have been able to articulate that. I probably have articulated that for myself, but that is not enough. I'm sure a lot of people have articulated that for themselves.
Right.
Some want to be doctors because they want to, for whatever reason.
Right.
I met a young man who told me that he wants to read medicine. I asked him why. Is it, he wants to help people. He said, no, because that's the easiest way to Japan. I couldn't believe it.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Guy gets trained here.
Yes.
And then how he goes.
And then he said that because that's the easiest way. That's one of the jobs. Is either you do nursing or you do any health related these things. You get it's easy for you to Japan. I was like shocked. I was like, okay. So your ultimate goal is to leave this country. He said, yeah. So I said, you've given up. Right? And, so what I'm saying is that individuals have defined what is and what is not their pursuit of happiness, the definition of happiness. But the country has not been able to do that yet. Maybe because we are still dealing with developmental problems.
Right.
The ability to be able to unshackle ourselves from the vestiges of all this things that have held us back. Maybe that's what we've been trying to do. Maybe that has been our inability to define what that pursuit of happiness. But I think generally, as a definition of what the dream of a Nigerian should be, who has been brought into this world through no fault of his, of course, or her, I think it should be the ability to be able to secure your life in a way that you'll be able to feed your family, you'll be able to go to a decent job, contribute productively to the country or to the community you live in, and to be able to aspire legitimately within the ambit of the law, to your success of whatever that is, if it is within the law. I think that freedom to achieve that should be available. So what is a fair society is the equality of opportunity, not necessarily the equality of outcome. The equality of outcome is based definitely on so many other factors that you may not control or the state might not control. But the opportunity, the equality of opportunity must be given by the state. And that is education, that is healthcare facilities, that is the basic things, that the freedom to associate, the freedom to do certain things. And I think, all those things are enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and different coded laws and conventions, but it is not I think
being effectively communicated
to the people on a consistent basis. I think there's a general belief that this is a country where, it's how much you have or who you know that determines what you get at whatever level.
That's a very important point.
Yeah, and I think that is what we have to slowly be able to deal with.
The people who have been responsible for this, and you and I have association with them, especially you, because you're a politician.
I am one of them.
but and I'm also associated. So, the people that have led us here, part of the problem is because they are also trying to contest within themselves as politicians. And so they bring up the things that divide us, ethnicity, religion, anything that I can use to get you out of the way so that I can go for it. So I think we have to come to a situation where we have a national consensus on a few things, regardless of party, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, regardless of region, whatever it is that divides us. Like we have a consensus right now, I believe, on rotational presidency. That has become a national consensus, in my view. We can begin to differ on how we calculate it, But at least, we have a national consensus. I said, look, we should rotate presidency between the North and the South. So I think we also need to come to a conclusion, a national consensus on, look, we have to deal with poverty. We have to deal with corruption. We have to bring back public education. We have to bring back public health, make it accessible to the people. Why do you think what is your own view on that kind of having a consensus that goes beyond politics? And is it possible, Ishmael?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should be. I think every country, and that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, that we need to have, because I said the country is bigger than just its government.
Yeah.
The government happens to be the management of the country.
For a time.
For a time. No, let's say government is continuing. Government is permanent. Those who are in government may be different. They may differ, but government itself is permanent.
Yeah.
But it's not the only stakeholder. Government just happens to be the management body. There are other critical factors within an organization or a society that make it up. And that's what I said, that there needs to be a consensus. Now, that consensus might not necessarily be all-encompassing.
Okay.
Everybody doesn't have to agree.
Okay.
But the elites of a country, and we know every society, right from history, has its own elites.
Yes.
This elitism is not about the ability to drive better cars or live in better houses or be able, no. Elitism, in the real sense of the word, just basically means someone who can legitimately represent other people based on what God has given him or the talent he has been able to acquire.
Yeah.
It could be wealth, it could be education,
the knowledge,
it could be history, it could be a lot of things.
Right.
Even if you look at the scriptures, I'm a Muslim.
Right.
And I know that there's no prophet that God has sent down that he did not give him helpers who are elites in that society. Rich people, educated people, people who know what they... So people that other people look up to naturally.
Right.
Influencers that become his disciples or his friends that help him propagate that particular religion that he comes with. That means that there is an institutional belief and even a religious belief in elitism. It's not about appropriation of wealth to yourself, or to your family. No, that is the misunderstanding of what elitism is. So it's not necessarily a bad word. It's a representation of the people. So that consensus has to come within that bracket of people, that this is what we need to do as a nation. So there has to be a consensus. I totally agree with you that this country, we are trying to do it in Kano for now, for example, right now as we speak. We said we're just tired of, the older people. They've been given all the opportunities. They've taken too much away from the state. Some of them have been governors. Some of them have been ministers. Some of them, and yet their ambitions, and their squabble between themselves have kept the state down. This is Kano State. If this country is 200 million in population, Kano has 20 million people. That is 10% of the entire population.
That's not a joke.
That is not a joke that anybody should joke with. But it is how you dress that you be addressed. Right. So if we go out playing like kids or child's play and our leaders are playing like child's play, then everybody else from the outside will take a shot at us. And they have no reason to. Right? So we have said, as young people, that we're going to have a consensus conference within a particular generation of 25 to 55.
Fantastic.
To say that this is where we think Kano should be.
Fantastic.
And it's not necessarily just political, it's everything else.
It's everything else.
We have to have a blueprint.
Everything.
Yes, it's everything.
That's why I said that it's beyond politics.
It's beyond politics. So it's the critical part of the society, the ulamas, the business community, the politicians, the academia, the intellect, name it. Everybody would have a say so that tomorrow, whatever happens, that you have been represented on the table to decide what Kano should be or should look like. Taking into cognizance all the fault lines that you think you may have. Fantastic. So I agree with you that as a nation, the country ought to have a consensus. And they do have consensus on other issues. So.
Yeah, I mean, on democracy.
On democracy, we sat down, we have a consensus on even this rotation that you talked about.
Exactly.
There was some sort of a consensus.
Exactly. That's
everybody might not have agreed, but there was a consensus. Exactly. It has become a convention and norm, a national consensus. So there should be a national consensus on other critical aspects that affect other people's lives, not just politics that affects their lives.
Interesting.
So I totally agree.
Very, very, very interesting.
Yes.
So let's bring it home, and there's an issue that I would like you to educate us about, So there is quite a bit of tension politically. You're a politician, that's why I decided to bring it up. Lawyer and politician. That in the North today, there's some kind of pushback, around, the reputation, the image of the president. You know that there is a League of Northern Democrats that was led by, that is being led by Alhaji Shekarau. They met former President Obasanjo, who said, why don't you just call it League of Nigerian Democrats instead of League of Northern, But my point is that, can you help tell us what is really happening in the North, regarding the issue? People, I mean, there have been quite some pushback. There was a time CBN was doing some reforms. And then other perceptions of maybe the North has been, treated in a way that wasn't bargained for. Please, I mean, Ishmael, tell us what's going on.
I think it will be presumptuous of me again to say that I know what the North in its entirety is thinking. And I think anybody is just presuming these things and assuming things. I think they are just political platitudes for people to gain some sort of relevance or political currency. To say that that's what the North thinks or this is what the South thinks. I don't think anybody right now has done a proper polling, to come to that definitive conclusion. But I can just give you, and that does not only have to do with this president or that president, that generally in Nigeria we have been dealing with identity politics for a while. Right? There comes a time once in a while that you have these people that emerge, and regardless of region and religion or ethnicity or creed or customs or consonants for that matter, they become popular all around. It comes once in a while, but the generality of what is happening in politics usually is identity. And that is because this country was formed before it was formed.
Wow. That's
right.
I like that. I don't know what to do.
Exactly. So this country at its beginning had regions.
Okay. Yeah.
So many of these people, well, a lot of them are still alive. Those people that believed in those regions.
Right.
And they have passed it down to generations that have come after them. So a lot of people believe they are either Northerners or Southerners, Westerners or Easterners. If you go down to the North, people believe they're either House of Fulani or Kanuri or Ibibio or Tiv or Idoma or Ibra, And then if you go down again and again and again, so at every point, so it depends on where you are squabbling for the scarce resources of this country, then where you need to unify yourselves. So, to answer your question, what is happening in northern Nigeria? I don't think it's a pushback against the president from what I have seen. And let me make it clear. I'm not claiming that I have been everywhere. I can speak for the places I have been to, people I have spoken to. I don't think there are a lot of Northerners that support the president vehemently till today.
Okay.
Some people even believe that they are even happy what is happening. That some people from the northern extraction have had opportunities and, so people have those kind of arguments. But I think generally the average northerner or the average southerner in Nigeria believes that whoever is in government matters to him. Right? May not be true,
right?
But he thinks it matters to him because he has been brainwashed to think so.
Right.
And then
you mean that the fact that it comes from his own
exactly. So whatever action that person takes, is interpreted within the prism of whether he's acting against or for a particular region. So, for example, when President Obasanjo moved NPA from the ship house that was built here back to Lagos, logically it makes a lot of sense because there's no water in Abuja. But there was a pushback.
Yeah.
When he wanted to save the new democracy from coup, and he said, every military officer from colonel upwards that have held political position should go. Most of the ones affected were northerners. The north reacted. Right? Now, fast forward to Yar'Adua, for example. Let's even Buhari. Yar'Adua did not leave much. There are so many actions that Buhari took in interests of the nation, purely innocently, but it was interpreted as a northerner who is taking positions against other parts of the country, right? And yes, maybe some of the words he used may not have helped him in the beginning when he was asked, what is he going to do about Niger Delta? And he said, have you seen the election results? And, they gave me 5% or whatever. So that might not have helped him. But you and I know that he wasn't out to get a particular part of the country. Yeah. So, but it was interpreted that way in so many ways. Right. Babangida, as a northerner, moved the federal capital from Lagos to Abuja. I don't think up till today there are so many people that have forgiven for that.
Although it wasn't his decision.
No. But he actually the physical movement. Yes. It was Murtala's decision. Another northerner. Right. The building started during Shagari. Another northerner. They moved completely. Happened in 1991 in Darin Babangida, another northerner. So the point is, so it felt as if it was a northern move, as opposed to looking at a Lagos state that is going to get choked up, that had few land places because it was covered mostly by water. Let it be a relief. Exactly. Let it be an economic hub. Let's go to get a place that it can bigger. Exactly, so that we can keep expanding. Logical argument, but it was seen as a northern move. So basically what I'm trying to say, Laudu, is that every president would do a particular thing that it would be seen as if he is attacking another region that he does not belong to or he does not come from. Now, I have always said, and this is in informal settings, and this is the first time I'm going to say it on TV. Okay. And I might be wrong. I've always said the Nigerian presidency is almost always about managing interests. It's almost always about managing interests. Your ability to manage an interest of all kinds that you can think of. Religious interests.
Most of them contending.
Yes, regional interests, class interests, all kinds of interests. Right? So your ability to manage those interests to the best, to the minimal level of friction that everybody feels included, will determine how successful you are at the end of the day as a head of state or as a president in this country. Largely, that is the case. Now, a lot of people from the north believe that they have put in all they can to get this president out, into government. And, some can argue for whatever reason. But Atiku ran, Kwankwaso ran. Those are both northern politicians, if you want to call them that. They are Nigerian politicians. I don't like calling them northern politicians. Yes, but from the northern extraction. That's fine. But yet, Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was able to get 4 states in the north central, 3 states in the northwest,
and then
1 state in the northeast.
Enough to actually,
and with enough votes. Kano State alone, we gave Ashwaju 570-something thousand votes. That cleared the difference that Atiku gave us in the whole of the Northeast by winning 5 states.
Oh, wow.
So what I'm saying is that, and now they are saying, okay, are we fully represented? The president can bring out all the list of appointments if that's what worries you, or the list of projects that what worries you, blah, blah, blah. But I think there is a sense of alienation from government. From those people, from some sort of elites in the north, that they feel now that cascaded down to the average northerners. And that happens also in the East. There's also feeling of alienation. Now, the Easterners might not be as vocal as the Northerners because the Easterners were like, well, we didn't vote for him anyway. That's your problem, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we brought our guy. You guys said you don't want him, so, you know, you're on your own.
Deal with it.
You know, deal with it. But ultimately, I think the president is doing his bit. Does he need to do a bit more? Yeah. I expected the president by now, in 2 years of his office, to must have visited at least 2, more states across the country, not necessarily to just commission projects, but even just to move around and see what's going on. Whenever I talk about Kano, people say I'm biased, but that's 10% of the country's population. I think the president ought to have visited Kano. I think even politics aside, that's 10% of the population.